The SD2PSX memory card from 𝐃𝐈𝐒𝐂𝐋𝐎𝐒𝐂𝐋𝐿𝐄 is the fastest and easiest way that I've ever seen to not only jailbreak your PlayStation 2 system, but play backups of your favorite games in no time at all. It's also a micro SD card based device that allows you to save thousands of save games from your favorite PlayStation 2 games all on one micro SD card. Here's everything that you need to know to get up and running with the SD2PSX card from 𝐃𝐈𝐒𝐂𝐋𝐿𝐄. One of the many things I like about 𝐃𝐈𝐒𝐿𝐄, who sponsored this video, is that they believe in giving credit to the creators of the open source products that they manufacture. They've credited the team behind the open source project for the SD2PSX on the GitHub right on their packaging. The SD2PSX is available from multiple sources, but there are two specific reasons that I think it makes good sense to buy it from a company like 𝐃𝐈𝐒𝐿𝐄. The first is that it comes with a 1-year warranty that you can register as soon as you get your card. This is important as a lot of lesser companies don't stand behind their products nearly as well, or sometimes not even at all. And the other reason is the quality of the company and the people behind it. They publish their company name, address, website, email, and telephone number right on the packaging. They've sponsored several videos on this channel in the past, and never once have they given me any guidance about what to say about their products. Their company belief is the quality of the products and the people behind them speak for themselves. The SD2PSX card supports both PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 1 systems. This video covers the PS2 side, and there's a PS1 video in the works as we speak. Among the many great features of this 𝐃𝐈𝐒𝐂 edition of the SD2PSX card is that it's literally a plug-and-play setup for your PlayStation 2. You don't have to download or configure anything on this SD2PSX card, it's already set up for you. It comes with an 8 GB micro SD card with the core operating system and various jailbreak functions installed on it. That's where we're going to start, with backing up this card and moving into a larger micro SD card so that we can add your game library to it. Think of the micro SD card that comes in the SD2PSX as your operating system drive. You obviously want to back up something like this to make sure that if the micro SD card has any problems in the future that you have a backup of it. My recommendation is to take the micro SD card out of the SD2PSX and insert it into your computer. Then open up a new instance of File Explorer and identify the drive that represents your micro SD card. In this case, it's drive letter F, but whatever drive it represents on your computer, double-click into it. You'll find two folders on the micro SD card. One is for the SD2PSX files, and the other is for the virtual memory card files, and we'll take a look at those in just a moment. Highlight both of these folders as you'll want to make a backup of them on your local computer. Then right-click and select Copy. Once you have those folders copied, you can actually close out this instance of File Explorer and create a new folder on your desktop or wherever you like so that you can save the backups of these folders. In this case, I'm just going to put it right on the desktop. I'll name this folder SD2PSX so that I can remember in the future what's in this folder. Since the folder didn't snap into place on the desktop, I'm just going to drag it over to the left side underneath the recycle bin just to keep things tidy. Now double-click into whatever folder you created to back up those folders from the micro SD card, right-click, and select Paste. Once you have those folders pasted in, you can close out the File Explorer window and either leave this folder on your desktop or archive it wherever you like on your computer for safekeeping. I'm going to transition over to a SanDisk 256 GB Extreme Micro SD card. Loading your games over micro USB through the SD2PSX instead of loading them on the side through USB gives you 3 key advantages. First, you can format micro SD cards in exFAT format, rather than having to format a USB drive in FAT32. This means games larger than 4 GB in size will easily fit on your micro SD card where they won't fit on a FAT32 formatted USB drive. Second, it keeps everything consolidated on one single card rather than having to have the SD2PSX and use a separate USB drive. And finally, the games load 200 to 300% faster from the SD2PSX than they will from the old USB 1.1 ports on your PS2. Once you've picked a micro SD card for your game backups and the backups of the system software, insert it into your computer, go to File Explorer, open this PC, and identify the drive letter that represents the micro SD card that you inserted into your computer. In this case, it's drive letter F, but remember, it might be different for your computer than the one that you see here. In this case, the card came pre-formatted in exFAT format, and there's nothing on the card. But just in case the card that you've inserted isn't already formatted, Make sure you identify the correct drive letter once again, right-click, and select Format. Before you format anything, make absolutely certain that exFAT is picked as the file format type in the Format tool. Once you've confirmed it's set to exFAT, click Start at the bottom right corner. Then at the confirmation window, click OK. And once the format process is complete, click OK again to close out the confirmation window. Then close out the Format tool with the red X in the top right corner. To use the newly formatted microSD card in the SD2PSX, you'll need to copy over the backups of the folders from the original microSD card. Open up the drive that represents the microSD card. I'm going to drag this File Explorer window over to the right side to snap it into place because I like to copy files from left to right. Now open up the folder that has the backups of the folders from the original microSD card. I'll grab this File Explorer window and drag it over to the left side to snap it into place. Now it's just a matter of grabbing those two folders and dragging and dropping them right over to the root of the other microSD card. Now you've got them backed up in three places: the new SD card, the original SD card, and on your computer. Awesome! There are two ways you can deal with your PS2 game content. One is you can create folders right on the root of the new SD card and call them DVD for DVD content and CD for CD content. The other way you can do it, and that's what I've done here, is just to keep those backups in pre-labeled folders on my computer. So I've got one folder here called CD and one called DVD. Let's take a look in each of these folders to see what kind of content is in here so that you can see what's supported. First up, we'll take a look in the DVD folder. The most common type of game backups for DVD-based games for the PlayStation 2 are going to be .ISO type games. So in this case, that's what I've got in here. A series of games in .ISO format. After all, they're ISOs. They're the miracle, man. Let me know in the comments if you know what movie that's from. Alright, take a look in the CD folder. There are actually two common types of game files for CD-based games. They'll either be in .ISO format, or they might be in folders with what are called .bin and .q files. Either way, both of these work with the SD2PSX device. Okay, cool. No matter whether you create those folders on the root or already have them pre-made like I've got here, all you've got to do at that point is just grab your game content and drag and drop it over to the root of the microSD card. That's all the setup work you have to do. You can close out any open instances of File Explorer at this point. Remove the microSD card from your computer, insert the new microSD card into the SD2PSX, and power on your PlayStation 2 system. When you turn on your PS2, you'll see FreeMcBoot version 1.966 loading in the OLED display. For about 95% of all PlayStation 2 systems, you want to leave this at the default because nearly all models of PlayStation 2 are compatible with FreeMcBoot. We'll talk about the 5% that aren't in just a moment. On your PlayStation 2, you'll see the FreeMcBoot logo appear when you first boot it up using the SD2PSX, and you'll be launched into the FreeMcBoot menu. And here's what's on that menu. Browser lets you access your memory card save files just like you would on your regular PlayStation 2 menu. The System Configuration tool allows you to access system configuration options just like you would from your original PlayStation 2 for things like the date and time and your video output options. WLaunch ELF is a tool that lets you run executable files or .elf files on your PlayStation 2. You can think of them like .exe files in Windows. Open PS2 Loader, or OPL, lets you load backups of PlayStation 2 games, but in this case you'll need to use a specific beta version of OPL, not this version. You want to use the version called MMCE, which is Memory Card Emulation Beta version. Of course, a PlayStation 2 can still play original PlayStation 2 game discs, and you can launch them from inside the FreeMcBoot interface. Underneath the Launch Disk menu, there's a menu item called the FreeMcBoot Configurator. I don't recommend that you make any changes to this unless you know exactly what you're doing and you know why. Underneath this, there's an option to restart your system, and if you have that memory card inserted, it will restart back into FreeMcBoot, and you can shut down your system if you wish from here. Let's get those PlayStation 2 game backups loaded. So to do this, again, don't use Open PS2 Loader. You want to use the one that says Open PS2 Loader MMCE Beta. This is really important or things are not going to work here. So load the MMCE Beta with the X button. Before you can use the MMCE Beta version of OPL, you need to change two settings. it's not going to be under the settings menu at the top. Instead, you'll want to scroll down to the listing that says MMCE settings that's near the bottom of the list of menu choices. So bring the highlight down to this with the D-pad and then press the X button to select MMCE settings. Inside the MMCE settings menu, you're going to find two things that you need to change. The first one is the very first listing at the top of the settings menu. It's called the MMCE Start Mode. By default, this is set to off. To change this, select it with the X button and then press the D-pad down twice. This will cycle through the choices until you change this from off to auto. Then press the X button to lock in that change. The other setting to update is under the Advanced tab. Scroll down the highlight with the D-pad until you get to the listing that says Wait Cycles after /ACK. By default, this is set to 5. Press the X button to select it, then push up on the D-pad 5 times. This is going to change that number from 5 to 0. Once you have it set to 0, press X again to lock in the change. Don't back out of this by pressing the circle button, whatever you do. You'll need to confirm these changes by coming down to OK with the D-pad, and once OK is highlighted, press the X button. Those changes are now saved at the individual menu level, but they won't be applied inside OPL until you save the changes from the main menu. So bring that same highlight down to the listing that says Save Changes, and once you have it highlighted, press the X button. Give OPL a moment to save these changes to the configuration file to the microSD card. You'll see a confirmation message on screen once it's done. To go back to the main menu of OPL MMCE Beta, press the circle button. Alright, you've put in the work, it's time to play some games. Press the circle button again to access the games list from inside OPL MMCE Beta. And sure enough, you'll see both the CD-based and DVD-based PlayStation 2 games here. And sure enough, CD-based games like Crazy Taxi and DVD-based games like God of War load flawlessly from the microSD card through the SD2PSX. So what if you have one of the PlayStation 2 Slim models that fall in that 5% category? The ones that are in the 90,000 model range with BIOS version 2.3. Well, here's how this works. You can press one of the two buttons on the bottom of the SD2PSX, and you can change the menu setting from FreeMake Boot to FunTuna. It's pre-installed on the card and ready to go. So FunTuna is a modified version of FreeMake Boot that loads on systems like the 90,000 models with BIOS version 2.3 that can't load FreeMake Boot. To load FunTuna, you just boot your PlayStation 2 with that memory card in place, locate the memory card inside the browser function and click on it, but don't attempt to load or modify any of the FreeMake Boot files you see here. Just go into it, press the circle button twice, once to go back in the menu system until you see the list of available memory cards, and then press circle again to go back one more time in the menu structure. FunTuna is not designed to run on fat models of PlayStation 2. It's meant to run on 90,000 model slim versions of the PlayStation 2 with firmware version 2.3. But once it boots, you'll see something similar to this. Just be aware that FunTuna is not persistent. You'll need to launch it each time using the browser tool when you boot up your PlayStation 2 Slim model. Since you've made it this far, here's a bonus tip. How do you deal with those virtual memory card saved game files? Well, you don't want to do anything with the original browser tool inside the PS2 menu. Just like you saw earlier, if you attempt to access save game files from inside the PS2's browser tool, you're not going to see anything here except FreeMake Boot files. And if you attempt to alter or delete these, well, your card's not going to work correctly anymore and you'll have to go set everything back up just like you did new. Instead, pull the microSD card from the SD2PSX and insert it into your computer. Go to File Explorer, then go to this PC. Locate the drive letter that's assigned to the microSD card, and then double-click on it. You're going to see a whole bunch of new folders here because they've been created by the OPL MMCE Beta for processes within OPL. There's a folder right on the root of the microSD card called Memory Cards. Double-click on that folder. Inside here, you're going to see 3 folders. One folder is called 𝐃𝐒𝐒𝐋, one folder is called PS1, and the other is called PS2. Double-click into the PS2 folder. Take a closer look here. You're going to see 2 sets of folders that have saved games. But how are you supposed to know what games are represented by what folders? Well, take a look back at the beta version of the OPL MMCE software. When you have a game highlighted, it's also going to show you in the menu system the game's manufacturer, region, and the game number. In this case, Crazy Taxi is already highlighted. So if you look near the bottom of the screen, you'll see that SLUS 20202 is the region code and the game code for Crazy Taxi. And sure enough, back at the virtual memory cards, there's SLUS 20202 on the right. And in case you're wondering, the other folder, SCUS 97481, is the one for God of War. So you've got a DVD save on the left and a CD save on the right. It's awesome seeing all of the incredible features that the 𝐃𝐈𝐒𝐂𝐋𝐎𝐒𝐑𝐄 SD2PSX memory card can offer you on the PlayStation 2. But that's not the only trick up its sleeve. It also works with the PlayStation 1. That video will be right here just as soon as it's ready for you. Be sure to tap on it to find out all of the incredible things it can do for your PlayStation 1.